My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we're talking about Hammerfight, which is an action game developed by G. Kosh and published by Cranks Productions for the PC in 2009.
Yeah. And this episode was executive produced by Ivan.
Thank you, Ivan.
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. I think this is a weird game for us to do. This is a format stretch. It's also something that I would have sat down and worked my way through. Yeah. I feel like without it kind of being put to the front. I'm not totally sure what I think about it. Mm-hmm. You and I haven't talked about this at all. Yeah. But it is different, which I appreciate.
It is different. And it is from an era of indie game that is actually pretty sparsely, populated, I guess.
Yeah.
This is pre-Braid. I think it's even Braid was 2008. My time period's all messed up.
It's pretty close to 2009.
Yeah. And also this is kind of a movement of physics-based indie games. Bullet point later, but this lost out on an IGF award to Crayon Physics. Physics-based indie games were kind of hot.
Physics-based indie games, and this is also during the indie game boom in general, where I feel like something like this was poised to gain more attention than it would be if it was released now.
Yeah.
It ends up making this kind of a real time capsule. Mm-hmm. I wish I felt stronger about playing it than I do. I don't have a lot of feelings what I feel. I got a lot of that going for this thing.
Yeah.
I wish I felt a little bit more passionate about it.
It just, to me, it feels like a mechanic in search of a way to use it. And in that way, it feels kind of like an arcade game that is making gestures towards being something else.
Very much like an arcade game or a game that primarily would be like a party game. Mm-hmm. This could be an indie game we played at Duckstream where, a versus game. Yeah. You have 4 players in one arena doing this physics engine. It's fun chaos. That's how the context of this. I understand you could play this multiplayer, but the weird thing is that they developed a pretty lore-heavy, dramatic single-player campaign for it, for something that essentially feels, again, like an arcade game or like a new Nintendo console gimmick game. We have a new way to control stuff. Yeah. Here's the thing around it. And, it's odd. It's an odd one.
Yeah.
Takes place in kind of a semi-post-apocalyptic world. I would say swords and sandals is kind of the aesthetic for a lot of it.
Dune. It's real Dune. Yeah.
Desert punk. Fighting and hunting in this is done by pilots who fly ancient machines that they found, they dug up from the ground from a place called the Abyss, by tying a heavy thing to them and swinging them around.
Yeah.
One of the things, I was trying to think of what it'd feel like to be inside the cockpit of one of these things.
Oh, no, it couldn't be.
During the stuff. Yeah. It would be a really shaky, spine-breaking roller coaster all the time, even before you get hit.
Yeah. It's kind of basically, if you're having trouble picturing this, it's the first boss in Sonic the Hedgehog 1, the Robotnik hover car with the wrecking ball swinging from it.
It's a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah.
This is a very specific pick. There's a item in the Binding of Isaac.
Okay.
That gives Isaac one of these.
Okay.
You can get Guppy's hairball, and it gives you exactly this. You have a little orbital that follows you, and it has the same physics. You swing it around the same way and it does damage. You get like this is contained in Isaac in a weird way. Like it doesn't obviate it, but you can do this in Isaac as well. And then that's all. It's different. It's different than the ordinary way of interfacing. So there's like challenge modes and like things you can do where you just have that.
And I could see that being like a specific call out to this, because this also was an era when every indie game developer was including shit from other games.
It was really that's what we were doing that in the Something Awful board around this time as well. That was just in the water.
Yeah.
Like, let's all follow each other, shout each other out. You're in this game, the story, you're the last living member of the Gaiar clan, fighting to get revenge against the empire that wiped out your house.
Yes. And this is a game that is mostly a control scheme. It is a mechanic. You are flying your ship around with your mouse movement. It's not like exactly, just a cursor replacement. Everything is kind of physics modeled in this. So like the heft of your weapon and all of the armor that you might have equipped, like does affect your kind of, moment. But it is still kind of informed by moving your mouse around.
Yeah. So and because it's not just a cursor replacement, because you're moving your ship, but not your weapon.
Yes.
The weapons are all melee weapons tied to your ship at different ranges. And again, with different weights and such, they'll affect the physics. If by this point, if it still doesn't make sense, if you're playing this vicariously through us, watch a video and you'll get it instantly.
Yeah.
Or you probably already own this because it was in a billion Humble bundles. Like everyone owns this and has 11 minutes played on Steam. Remind yourself, refresh yourself. It will make sense.
Yeah. So you're swinging weapons around, and a lot of the time you are fighting enemies who are doing very similar. And this does, I think, when it's at its best. Well, when it's at its best, I'm playing Hammerball, and that's a really good time. But like when the combat is at its best, you are kind of doing this kind of duel where you're trying to hit the enemy but not be hit yourself.
Yes. And there's a lot of chaos to it.
Yes.
There are a bunch of different kinds of weapons. So you're making choices about weights and trade-offs for these. Swords are short, but they're really fast. Hammers are strong, but heavy and slow, and have more knockback.
Yeah.
Flails have range and can be whipped around really quickly, but they don't defend you as well.
Yes.
Since they're not stuck to your ship that way. On top of this, there are damage types and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Weapons are more effective or less effective against different enemy materials. So mechanical enemies, you want blunt damage. Beasts, you want blades. You can cut through unarmored enemies.
Yeah. You can also dual wield weapons if you want to. I didn't really mess around with this beyond when it was tutorialized, because it made, when they get swinging at different rates and they kind of pull you in different directions. Yeah.
It's real weird. And so much of like mastery, like I'm not a master of this game, but so much of getting through this game is getting used to a set, like internalizing the movement of your specific weapon thing.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to mess with that. Like it kind of ended up making a lot of the rewards not feel particularly meaningful, because I would get new weapons and like, that might be fun to try, but I'm just so shitty with anything I'm not used to the swing of.
Yeah. And just, is it a big fuck off chain flail? Otherwise I'm not interested.
I ended up going hammers with it and got used to hammers, but I just was locked into the hammer meta. Like I'm going to hit slow and hard.
Yeah. Just with the chain ones, there's something about the momentum. You can really get it going. The whip snap of it. Once you learn how to do that, you're able to just like knock shit clean across the screen. It's great. Yeah.
Yep.
So you can also attach guns and mortars to your weapons. I tried this. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I am bad at timing, because you have to spin those around too, and you aim them by like getting a good swing going and then timing the shot.
Yes, you choose the release for it. I was also bad at those. I think that my understanding in looking up stuff about this game is that it is not a very popular way to play.
Right. And that is because, like, in addition to being difficult to use, enemies make guns look very powerful because they don't follow the same rules that you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an asymmetry in this stuff. We'll talk about that when we start talking about how they do the matchups.
Yeah.
As you kill enemies, you get money, and you can use this to unlock new weapons. You can get consumables, and you can buy armor plates that kind of spin around your flying machine.
Yeah.
And then there's an entire like equipment slot system. There are singing stones you acquire. These are elemental gems, like minerals that can be socketed into weapons and give them special effects.
Yeah, but they are permanent. So you have to be sure, okay, I want this to be a flame weapon, or I want this to be a shock weapon.
Yes.
With all the attendant effects that has. I ended up being kind of scared to commit on that. I didn't want to mess up the weapon that I liked using most. So
again, it's really easy to get into kind of a groove and not want to experiment in this game. In part because combat in this, the closest analog that I can think of is it's kind of like a version of Bushido Blade.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, like it's everything's really quick and dangerous. You're really fragile, especially at first, and even later in the game. Combat happens fast.
Yeah,
in this, there's a rhythm to it with that to me, I think is part of why this left me a little bit cold, or like I have hard times feeling very strong about it. Is that they do their best to mix up what you're doing. In this, but combat's so quick, and then you just get a short story section, and then you do a slight variation on the combat after that, and it ends up being like this is a short game, but it ended up feeling very concentrated. Yeah, like a relentless dose of the like. If you like this combat, here's tons of it really fast with really really quick decisions.
Yeah,
and that's what Hammerfight is.
And I do like the combat. Like when this was singing, it really sang for me. Like just again, learning how to commit to an attack when, kind of messing up, you end up wedged between two things and you just kind of bounce back and forth and then you're down. Right.
Yeah. There's definitely like a satisfaction to figuring it out.
Yes.
It's kind of the line of this game as you figure this out and, embody your weapon, and then it ends.
Yes.
But you've done a lot of fights in between there, that a lot of them are very similar.
Yes. You get fame and glory. Like fame is something you get by doing cool shit in front of people. And glory is kind of just points. There's no apparent purpose for this. I looked it up. This is just score is what this is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept expecting them to tutorialize a stat screen.
Yes.
From this.
Yeah.
As you go through the story, you get titles based on how you fight. In this, so if somebody surrenders and you kill them, you might get a specific title, and if you spare them, you might get another one. These are just for flavor, and again for the weirdly detailed story.
Yes.
Of this.
And this is going to be a short episode because that's really all of the mechanical stuff. It's variations on this. There's some things that I didn't call out specifically, like you can throw weapons and also catch. Like you can steal an enemy's weapon by knocking it off of them and then using the little automatic arms on your flying core thing to like snatch it out of the air and like add it in. You can taunt enemies, which is very fun. I ended up using that, even though most of my taunting was done accidentally. A thing that sticks out about playing this is configuring it is hard because of resolutions and the way that it handles mouse sensitivity. Like I was having a real hard time and dying almost instantaneously in a fight before I realized and actually looked up video of people playing and was like, oh, I should be moving way faster. This is like a mouse sensitivity problem.
Yeah. It's a thing. One of the reasons why I'm glad we covered this is I think it's on the verge of almost being lost media. It feels like computers will cease being able to replicate this experience. It's like a PC version of us doing a Wii U game.
Yeah.
In a weird way because of this control method. It's pretty simple. A lot of those extra mechanics, I got tutorialized them. I never saw a reason or opportunity to do them. And in my mind, I was thinking this probably sings in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like I think the ideal for this game, despite them putting a lot of work into the single player and obviously really caring about the world they created, it was like, multiplayer couch co-op.
Yeah.
Like I could see that being really fun. Similar to Bushido Blade, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an element of this that feels a little bit like playing single player Bushido Blade, but even simpler. That felt a little weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it wasn't just that. Like like you would end up with stuff like this would be right at home in Sports Friends, right?
Yeah.
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 It just wasn't the kind of game that was being made on PCs, right?
At the time, yeah. It's really kind of ahead of its time in a weird way.
Yeah.
With that. Aesthetically, the game has very detailed pixel art. There are a lot of smoke and particle effects. The visual style is distinct, but there's a lot of visual noise. Specifically, there are word bubbles that pop out of characters and out of their icons. And while you're kind of playing, if there's text to read while you're doing very, very frantic, fast mouse-based combat.
Yes. Yeah.
That gets a little tricky.
I would lose my guy quite a bit in this. Yeah. Music is fine. It feels like it is, kind of nailing an instrument palette, composition style. Like everything about this is, just like super like Central Asian. Yeah. In terms of that. So yeah, it's good.
It's fine. Yeah. Sound effects and everything pretty good.
Yeah.
The story is weird in this. The story is a very basic story. But this clearly had somebody who had a really big world Bible behind it. There's tons of complexity and detail. This feels like it started as a campaign setting. So there are a lot of nouns. There are a lot of references to events and characters and stuff like that. Like, it's hard to follow. Yeah. When this came out, there's also not a, having some kind of like background or like, like you could hover over this word that refers to some war and learn about it.
Yeah.
I respect that. I wish that I was pulled in a little bit more with the stuff from the story. Like, this might just be a case of not my personal preference. I'm not like a Dune guy. This is real Dune. And I'm not a Dune guy.
Yeah. My problem was that, like, if they had an opportunity to introduce a new character, they would always do it. And it got hard to keep tabs on everybody, and also made it so that, like, when it turns out like, yes, I'm the one who betrayed you, I just want to say, wait, which one are you?
Yeah, who are you? Yeah. It's it kind of doesn't work. It's respectable and weird.
Yeah.
But
here's a thing. And I don't know, what leads somebody to make a different decision, but to my mind, there is no excuse not to put the character's name like in their text bubble so you know who they are.
Yeah. Like the characters look visually distinct. There's just so many of them.
Yes.
And the way that they're presented is little tiny windows on the screen that already has kind of an odd resolution, because you're making it work. And they look like the talking heads from old Fallouts.
Yes.
Quite a bit. But there are so many of them that, like, it's pretty easy to mix up guys. Through this. Like, I was picking up generally what was going on through context clues a lot of the time.
Yeah.
In addition to, like, just playing this in burst, because it's the same thing when you play it, like playing it in a burst, putting it down for a couple of days, coming back and playing it in a burst.
Yeah. Another thing, and this is, it'll sound like me nitpicking, but I swear it does affect the story. It really can't decide what tense it wants to write in. Like, there will be dialogue, and then there will be like text in between the stages where you can't tell if it's summarizing what is happening now, or if it is like, this is like a historical text talking about things. So like they're talking about like, yes, the first house, the second house, it's like the new kingdom, the old kingdom, like which one is this? Because like this is jumping backward and forward in time here, in addition to also having these epigraphs that are unattributed Bible verses.
Yes. So it's hard to tell how much that is translation as well.
Yeah.
Right. Like, the person, who knows to what we have that, but I also had that problem.
Yes. Yeah. So don't want to give it a hard time, but it does affect the legibility of it to me.
Yeah. Yep. This game began development as Hammerfall instead of Hammerfight.
Yep.
First appeared in 2007 as a demo on the gamedev.ru forums. The demo was popular. The demo itself got an English fan translation.
Yeah. It was like a time-limited demo, but you could just circumvent that if you wanted to. And there was just a ton of the game that was done and shipped with it. I like the name Hammerfight. Just what me and the boys do down at the docks when God's
That's
not
what
watching.
It sounds like. I'm expecting it to be like an old boy simulator.
Yeah.
Like,
This is the work of a single Russian developer, Konstantin Kashutin, making this kind of a piece. I swear, Gary, I didn't do this intentionally. Like putting two Russian developed games back to back like that.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah. No, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, single developer kind of thing. It's really interesting to think of this with Indica in terms of snapshots of indie-ness.
Yes.
15 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't learn very much. There's not very much about the development of the game, other than what comes through in the game, which is that it's very influenced by these Central Asian cultures, and there's a lot of detail. This was a world Bible or novel or D&D campaign or something.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, there's a lot of background to this.
Yeah. This was nominated for 2 awards, the 2008 International Games Festival, but it lost out to Crayon Physics and Fez. Lost out to Fez like 4 years before Fez came out.
Fucking Fez. This is interesting. There's a PSP port of this. It came out in 2010, Age of Hammer Wars. Depending on which model PSP you have, that would be playable or unplayable. Like the one with the little nubbin.
Uh-huh.
I could see that working.
Yeah.
If you don't got that nubbin,
then you don't
doomed.
got nothing.
You got nub and you got nothing. I want to see what that. I didn't research this, but I'm curious as to what's different about that port. Mm-hmm. Like if they extended it or anything, or if there are any how they handle that control scheme on a controller.
Yeah. It got popular again, kind of grew in popularity. This was part of the third Humble Indie Bundle when they used to be discrete like annual events. Yeah, but that was in 2011, and that's where I got a hold of this.
Yeah, it's probably where most people have it.
Yeah.
It was when this was brought to us by Ivan, I found it was already in my Steam library. Mm-hmm. We might have talked about it on Comrade as well. I don't know.
I can look that up.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Following the development release of this, Kushitin went on to spend more than a decade developing a sequel, Hammerfight 2, which would eventually become the 2021 hybrid strategy action game High Fleet, Deus in Nobis. Mm-hmm. That was one of the games that Ivan pitched to us, and quite frankly, seemed more my shit. Mm-hmm. It's just really long.
Yeah.
Like we did not have time to do it with Might and Magic 6, or just in general. It was pushing kind of the boundaries of the show.
Yes. That game looks rad.
It does look cool.
It looks really cool. Just like it has this kind of arcade combat, but you're managing like fleets and resources from this cool like radar screen. It's incredibly stylish. Like I saw that and I was like, this looks like it would be for me. And I picked it up and fucked around with it, but it's really intimidating.
And again, it takes 40 plus hours to beat.
Yeah.
It's a serious game. Mm-hmm. So did not work for this episode, but luckily, if we ever get around to that, we'll have the prequel kind of set and have the background. That's basically going to be it for generalities. Again, this is going to be a short episode. Mm-hmm. The game is fairly simple.
It is.
At this point, I think if this sounds fun, and I wouldn't worry about spoilers. I don't think there's a lot of attention played to the plot, but it's not like something I think you're going to have ruined for you. Mm-hmm. If this sounds fun to you, I would recommend checking it out because you probably already have it.
Yeah. And
there is something a little bit unique in terms of like the feeling of becoming more and more embodied and used to this. Mm-hmm. Like this fires on a minor level the same way Rock Band drums do, where there is a shorter line between what you're physically doing and what your avatar is doing.
Yeah.
Than is usually in video games. Mm-hmm. And that has value.
Yes.
Like that's neat. This left me a little cool, like not cold, but just a little bit like, okay. Probably not going to think about this game very much in the future. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I played it. But I can imagine, depending on how much you value that, this hitting really hard.
Yeah. Like, give it a shot because it's hard to name other stuff that has done exactly this, right?
Yeah.
And we're fans of novelty here.
Yeah. I'm really glad this exists in the gaming space. I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been more. Mm-hmm. There's like Particle Mace. There's a couple games I've used similar things to this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If I remember right. But I haven't seen very much exactly like this.
So let's get into it. Oh, Jinx. We're in chapter 1. There are 4 chapters in this. Chapter 1, the Gaiars. We get historical context here. Long ago, the people of the Abyss found these flying machines that were just so darn useful for every task, right? Mm-hmm. And the people of the Abyss kind of separated out into these 3 family houses. Kadish, Kalete, and then Gaiar. And yeah, something that's kind of neat here is you never get a real sense for what the world is and what the Abyss might be. There's some real dimensional stuff going on, even before you get to the point where it is explicitly that.
All kind of structures seem like they're built up onto the sides of cliffs and stuff over a big yawning nothing. Mm-hmm. Basically everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's quite literally an abyss here.
Yeah.
At one time, these 3 houses were completely equal, but then Mesmith Sidrael of Gaiar started a war to subjugate the others and tried to form a united kingdom, the First Kingdom.
Yeah. And we get some tutorials where this young upstart just learning how to fly these machines, and we're learning from an old man named Melek. Telling us, combat lasts until you draw blood or disarm your opponent, or they surrender. Human enemies will surrender in this, and you can decide whether or not to let them live.
And draw blood is ridiculous in this because we're in big flying machine things. We the scale of people, they show people on the map as well, but they're like lemmings.
Oh yeah.
Generally, you control your flying machine, which is the size of EDE from New Vegas or something, this little EDE kind of thing. And the idea that first blood is going to happen when somebody falls down inside it, and bumps their head real good.
Gary, the forces at play here, just by flying one of these machines, you are nothing but a wet sack of concrete.
Yes, this chunky salsa happens to you continuously. You do it until first salsa.
And then we get some more, tutorial stuff. We're going to light a lot of these matches just because there's slight variations on things.
Yes.
But the chief comes and, we're presented with an option of which mission to go on to next. This one tells you which is going to be hard and which is going to be kind of normal and expected for the, part of the game that you're at. Later ones will not.
Yes. Yeah. So it's whether you go to Silent Rock, which will be hard, or the Savati Fiefdom, which will be normal. Here, there are a couple of those branches throughout.
Yeah. There's only one, maybe 2 choices in the game that really matter, actually. This is it's a matter of personal preference on some of it. Yeah. So I went to the Sayati tribe. And I was very confused about this because they talk about hunting worms and farming worms. And I didn't realize that when you are, seeing airships with these kind of weird big kind of gas bag things, those are the worms. The gas bag things are the worms.
And there are gigantic flying sky worms.
Yeah.
That we're going to have. Before we can deal with these worms, we have to fight against the son of the tribe to prove ourselves. His flyer has a hammer instead of a mason chain, so you get to kind of see how that works before you can use it.
Yeah.
There. And you beat him, and then you have to beat 3 to 4, some other pilots in a group melee using the hammer. Mm-hmm. One of the things that is different about this, as opposed to a Bushido blade, is that they're not often duels. The AI isn't quite there, I think, to match a human player. Mm-hmm. So the odds are always stacked against you.
Yeah.
You're always fighting multiple opponents at once, which is not too difficult or anything. I'm not complaining about that. But it's not a thing where it's mere matches. It doesn't really feel like playing against another human.
Mm-hmm. There's no Yomi to it, even, mimicked, right?
Yes. Yeah. Too quick for that and too chaotic.
Yes. So, after you win, the seneschal arrives and attacks, just straight up opening fire on somebody else's house, which is not the done thing. And you have to fight off several of these small buzzsaw drones to escape, or to give cover for these refugees who are escaping. These things are going to be omnipresent throughout the game. They just fly straight at you, and they're small and hard to hit.
Yep, and consequently a little bit hard to dodge as well. For me, anytime a seneschal shows up, like I'm pretty into it. Like a vizier or a seneschal.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, this guy's up to something.
Oh
You know?
yeah. By like, default, I don't know why anybody has a vizier.
Anyway, why would you even have a vizier or a seneschal?
You're just asking for trouble.
Yeah, like this is my betraying agent.
Yeah,
it's real silly. It's Synodoki. Like it's this house is going to be on fire at some point. Like why would you get yourself a seneschal? So this one is proving no exception. Giving seneschals a bad name everywhere.
Yeah. And you've got to defend like the escaping refugees like more directly, taking down their worm ships. And also dealing with rocket launchers and enemy gunmen for the first time.
Yeah, as you're escorting a caravan of these refugees.
Yes.
Through that, like this escort mission. They send their buzzsaws after us as well. And this is kind of almost side-scrolling.
Yeah.
Like as opposed to just being in one arena, like we move from left to right in this.
Gary, I had so much trouble telling what was a friend airship and what wasn't.
I had no fucking idea. It all looks, they all look like little tiny, like beautiful pixel art drawings of steampunk flying machines. Yeah. It's just, the way I could tell is when they were yelling at me when I went at them.
Yeah.
Like little word bubbles coming out, being like, "No, you fool!" And I was like, "Okay,
yeah,
fair. I'm the seneschal now."
Back at home, kind of the Gaiar chief, refuses refuge to the Sayati who escaped. The ones who survived, saying like, "Hey, you're cowards. You're going to break the traditions. Families stay within their own walls or they die."
Yeah, you don't leave.
And that's when you come careening across the sky, bringing in heat.
Yeah. So they notice that the caravan coming in the middle of the night, and the great beast Sophit attacks, which is a big worm, a big clawed sky worm.
Yeah.
And we had to fight it in the dark. The only light is being cast from an allied airship that we're protecting. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Through this. Kind of almost like a boss fight. It's not quite the end of this, but
yeah, you've got to stay close to the ship in order to see anything. This is something they do quite a bit with the beast fights. Is like, okay, all they can really do is kind of fly at you. So let's make.
How do we
dark.
complicate this?
Yeah, let's make it dark.
Let's make it dark, or let's chain you in place. Or something like that. Like, how can we complicate this thing? Because it's one of the things that's interesting about this game in terms of being like admirable is that it really does use every part of it.
Oh yeah.
I do feel like this does. Yeah, this is what you could do with this idea. Here it is.
Yeah.
So after we take care of the big worm here, a big swarm of Empire machines attack the walls, and most of our allies are knocked out really quickly. We have to kill or hold out until the orb at the top of the screen fills up. Yeah. There are also these missions like that where you have timing. The UI in this game is hard to read.
I find it hard.
We didn't talk about that before. But you have a little, in the lower left, you have kind of a little gauge that kind of does everything for you. And it's your life as well.
Yeah.
I could not tell how much damage an attack would do to me before it did it for anything.
No.
Like I would get hit what felt like, absolutely, human shattering attack and lose a little bit of health, and then get hit and lose a lot of health.
Yeah.
Through that. And it's analog. It looks like a steam meter.
Yeah.
Air pressure gauge. So it's kind of analog and bouncy anyway. It's very imprecise.
Yeah. Kind of legibility issues across the board.
Yeah. And again, we alluded to this in the intro. Part of it is getting it set up because it's not made for modern computers. Like it was not meant to run at current resolutions.
Yeah.
So that might have something to do with the legibility.
Also, whenever there's a timed mission, the interface for that at the top of the screen is, honest to God, it's a super clock. It's the first time I ever understood a super clock.
Well, welcome. They give you a super clock, which was always a very easy to understand idea. It's a 3D clock.
Gary, I lost it again. Your insistence made me lose it. Yeah.
No, it's back. It's just consider a 3D clock. We do this, the screen fills up, and then eventually an Imperial commander named Hamar says, you've lost the fight, you have to surrender. Yeah. And we enter into our act 2 of us being in like gladiator pits because this is swords and sandals shit.
Yeah. We've been taken. We are slaves. House of Gyre has fallen, and very quickly learn we're the last of them. And the House of Gyre has this huge reputation as being the house that produces the best warriors.
Yes. Yep. So we've fallen. The Second Kingdom has been founded. Mm-hmm. We've been taken as slaves, and the Empire is continuing to delve into the secrets of the abyss.
Yeah.
So we're in a gladiator movie. We have like a bunch of missions in the slave pits. Mm-hmm. This is where they introduced that chaining gimmick. Mm-hmm. A lot of these missions are you survive for a certain amount of time, but you have a tether in the middle of the screen. So you're dodging, you only have to dodge. You don't have to attack. You don't have any weapons, but you have a limited real estate to do it.
Yeah. It's not just the limited real estate. Like if you press against it, it will also yank back.
Yes.
As well. So you have to make sure that you keep a little bit of slack, because otherwise you're not going to have any kind of control over, over your directionality. It's just going to pull you back into the line of fire.
Yep. Yeah. So you do this for about a minute, and then there are variations. Mm-hmm. On this. There's a guy in one-on-one combat we have to do with this detriment. A bunch of beasts will come at us, which we have to defeat while we're chained.
Yeah.
And then eventually they give you a weapon, for this. You have this little shitty short sword to fight this.
Yeah. Yeah. Swords are interesting because there's no haft to them. It is just the blade that kind of spins around you very quickly, which seems like it would be beneficial. However, there's nothing to protect you, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no distance that you can keep. You're pretty much putting yourself right into danger with it.
Yeah. Yep. After this, we get another survival, for as long as we can. Mm-hmm. We survive as long as we can against short-sword enemies. We're chained, and you get money based on how much you survive. You may have noticed they have not introduced the ability to spend money yet.
No.
That's coming soon. They introduced the systems through this game pretty gradually.
Yes.
This does have the single player training for multiplayer kind of feeling to it a little bit in that way.
Yeah. And then this is very interesting. You fight against the executioner, and you are chained to him during the fight. I love this,
like
Gary.
it's a really clever idea for this. It's like Luis and Leon.
Yeah.
Being chained together for this. It's neat because again, it's all physics based.
Yeah.
So, what you can move and what tethers you is always of interest, is always matters here.
And he can yank you, but you can yank him. It's great.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. After this, we talk to Elder Kassad. He approaches the slave master and asks to buy us. Yeah. But however, our price is going to be triple the rate if he waits. Mm-hmm. Listen, you're going to have this match against Sofit. If you can defeat it, it's going to be you're going to get even more money for this. This is where I noticed that the dialogue in this has a little bit of that I told you to get the gas, but I told you to get the gas.
Yes, yeah.
Stuff. Some maybe unnecessary backing and forthing over this stuff. It's not very concise.
Yeah, and that's not like just a pacing problem. It's not just me being annoying with text. It makes it very hard to tell what is important within the information that is being passed back and forth.
Yeah, agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your reward for doing this, it's just the fight against the Sofit. Instead of darkness this time, he is like
the Sofit's that big worm.
Yeah, the big claw worm. It will hang out off screen and attack by doing a big rush from the bottom at you.
Yeah. Yep. If you get it, you get your first singing stone. Mm-hmm. This bloody ruby, you can socket this into your weapons.
Yes. We learn a little bit about the person who just bought us. Kassad is the Emperor's most honored fighter. And he knew our character's father, saying hey, I want you to follow in his footsteps. And your first task is going to be to participate in this dueling tournament that is coming up. And now I
did have a laugh when we're leaving the gladiator pits to go to the dueling tournament. Just very funny.
Yeah. But we're introduced to kind of our menu interface here, like the shop. Which everything in this is diegetic because your ship is your mouse. You pick things by hovering close to it. You equip a weapon by just like grabbing it from the rack where it is hanging.
Yeah, and if you have the money, you'll buy it and stuff. You're gonna spend a lot of time in here flipping around, figuring it out, or at least I did. Trying to figure this out. This is where I end up, and there are little like tooltips that'll kind of explain the vague differences between things when you pick them up.
Yeah,
kind of some background.
Yes.
There. After this, we head to the tournament, starting with the Jargonian tournament. Here. And we, over the next couple of fights, we're learning to use different weapons.
Yes.
In addition, learning how to attach a gun to our active weapon.
And we meet the tournament organizer, Humid. He has this score to settle with the guy who raised our clan, destroyed it, saying like, hey, I'm going to challenge him to you're going to challenge him to a duel on my behalf. But in order to get to that position, we need to keep you in the tournament. You need to, defeat enough people to prove your worthiness. A lot of proven worthiness.
I was just about to say, if you like proving that you're worthy, this is the game for you. Like, there's a lot of proving you're worthy. So we fight the Seneschal. Everyone's dream, every vizier's dream. The Seneschals versus viziers. Whoever wins, we lose. The Seneschal fights a machine that has a lot of armor. So it has these armor plates that kind of spin around it. You have to actually knock those off before you can actually do any damage.
Yeah.
And again, this is kind of fun. It's all physics based. So, for me, I was getting big hammer hits and trying to hit like the corner, getting enough momentum to like hit the side of the plate.
Yeah.
To knock it off.
Like trying to hit it against the direction or like the angle of its momentum as well to like maximize how much, it's physics, right? Maximize the physics that happen when you hit.
Take the physics and hit them up to 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you do in this.
But this is good. It does run up against something where you don't know what a mission's going to be or what you're going to be fighting until you do it. And so if you walk into this and you are real attached to a bladed weapon, that is useless to you against the Seneschal here.
Yeah. I think I'm sure you can make it work.
Yeah.
There's a way to brute force this, but it's not ideal. So after you take them down, you're presented with another choice. We can either investigate a distress call from a settlement along the fog wall or aid Kumid in assaulting the fortress of Melka to defeat Sennacherib who ordered the attack on Giar.
Yes.
So it wasn't the Seneschal. Somebody ordered the Seneschal. Somebody was pulling the Seneschal strings, and we can go attack him.
You get to the Seneschal. I got bad news about the Sennacherib.
It's literally that. The Sennacherib.
Even as we speak, he's consolidating his power.
The power is getting constantly consolidated.
This is a mission choice. I decided to investigate the fog wall because basically a two-person revolution seems like firing the cannon indoors. Also, I wanted to see what a fog wall was.
Yeah, like I was thirsty for world building stuff about this because that, like you mentioned before, the not knowing exactly what the not just cosmology, but like the actual physical layout of this is, and having that kind of creep in is neat.
Yeah,
I wanted to see other areas. And I just fought a fucking Seneschal.
Yeah.
Like I just, I don't know. Send me to the fog wall.
Please.
I'm also just kind of like good time Gary during this because I'm not super invested in these things where they don't tell me what the difference is going to be mechanically. And I know I'm going to be doing the Hammerfight verb.
Yeah.
Like, cool, let's do that. I turn into Burt Reynolds in Boogie Nights, where it's like, hey man, can I come in her ass? It's like, come in her ass. I turn into that, like, check out the fog wall.
Oh God! So both of us went to investigate the fog wall, and the fog wall is just like it is like the edge of territory. The edge of the territory between like the kingdoms of man and these beasts, like these flying like bug reptile things. And this is a settlement called Aber Asid Rock, and you have to defend the wall there from this bug assault. And they breach the caves, and you get into holy shit, Gary, these cave missions where you're in the narrow tunnels. This is rough stuff. It
reminds me of why I don't like weirdly a totally different game, but it's like Descent.
Oh yeah.
Like there's something about flying with this much looseness in very narrow spaces.
Yeah.
That just kind of doesn't work for me. It's not that you're just moving your mouse, so it's not imprecise, but you have to be imprecise to swing your weapon.
Yes.
Like you have to make wide circles to swing your weapon.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult in this kind of area.
Yeah. And because of the physics, because of knockback, you have these beasts that are attacking out of the dark. That will knock you into a wall. Then you bounce back into the enemy's attacks.
Yep.
So you're getting Night of the Rocks buried until you're down. This is where
damage compounds. Like any hit becomes multiple hits because you're going to hit the wall.
Yeah. This is where it's worth mentioning that there is an anti-frustration feature in this. If you lose a mission enough times, which I did, this is kind of a difficult game, I find. Especially in places like this, it will say, like, do you want to buy the noun? And if you buy the noun, you give up all of the gold that you have currently in order to just pass the mission.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is
good. Yeah. I was going to say a nice feature. You know, not the most elegantly implicated or implemented anti-frustration thing I can think of. It just skips it.
Yeah.
So if these things are building on each other, you know, getting more and more difficult, you can kind of fuck yourself up.
Yes.
Doing this, if you die enough.
I would have loved to have taken that option at a couple of points, but also like I need to write about the game to talk about the game.
Yeah.
I need to play it to talk about it. And so,
well, I also wanted my money because it's still at this point, you know, I hadn't quite clocked that the idea was it's a Dark Souls. Like I'm going to form a relationship with a weapon I really like. It's not going to be a thing where it's about the novelty of seeking out new kinds of physics.
Yeah.
You know, at least for me. So like I wanted to save my money to get new cool weapons. And at the very least, eventually there are like better versions of the class of weapons that you have. But yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
You fight these guys in confined space. Then you do a mission where it's dark in narrow spaces. So it's nearly pitch black.
Yeah.
Things pop out of nowhere. They hit you, they knock you to the wall. It lasts for a very long time. This sucks.
Also, it goes on forever. And you have to break down destructible walls in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ended up damaging myself trying to break down the walls, Gary.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you do if you were actually flying one of these.
Yeah.
You know, and what all of us would do. We'd fucking die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of
taking to a mission whose name that I love, How to Die.
How to Die.
This is the last stand in the temple. And you have to fight off all of these worms. They're only coming from one direction this time. The amount of worms that you take down is huge. By the end of this, like it's piled halfway up the screen.
So many worms.
Yeah.
This was probably the hard mission that we chose.
Yeah.
Is my guess based on how different this felt. You know, because it didn't tell us there. Yeah. We get a mortar weapon, which I did not. I tried and then I was like, they forgot I had it.
I can't. I can't control this thing.
It's difficult.
Yeah. When everybody else fires an explosive weapon, it seeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we return to the city and we learn about the thing that happened when we weren't there. Humid's revolt has resulted in horrible, horrible bloodshed. The hall is filled with hanging bodies.
Makes sense. If we had been there, we could have made the difference.
Yeah.
Also, that implies people are fighting not in these mechs. Like somebody actually pulled out a sword or something and played a different game, which is funny.
Yeah. But Humid says, all right, so water off a duck's back, revolutions fail, the tournament is going to resume, and the emperor is going to be in attendance. And guess what? We're going to challenge him to a duel. He will not back down if he is challenged publicly.
Yes. So this brings us into chapter 3, Kaddish. So to appear at the next tournament, we have to prove ourselves through a series of trials.
Yes.
So these are different kind of things, little mini games you can do with this.
This is fun. I like
this is really good. I'm really glad that this late in the game they're introducing new shit you can do with this model.
Yeah. So it's like flail hurling. You have to like destroy these hanging baskets by throwing your weapon while you stay below this kind of line of flags. So it's like only the bottom half of the screen. You have to throw it at a distance and then catch the flail. If you don't catch it, then you lose. Then you have to start over again.
Yep. There are ones where you have to slash these baskets in succession with your sword.
Yeah.
And there are ones that are on fire.
People are throwing them.
Yeah, you know. And then Home Run Derby, as you mentioned, Hammerball, which is the coolest part of this game.
Yes.
Hammerball is pretty fun.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been a game on its own.
No. Nope.
Like there's not like, why don't they build the whole plane of the Hammerball? But in terms of things you could take from this for a very specific Eastern Bloc Mario Party.
Mm-hmm.
Like this would be one of them.
Yeah. It's just that there's a boulder that rolls down like a little course, and then it drops, and you have to whack the ball. I have to whack the boulder, and you gain points based on how many meters high it goes.
Yep. Pretty fun. After this, there's another choice.
Yeah.
Here.
And we can choose what to do. You can either go to the Lesser League or to the Hammer Fighters League. I don't know what the difference is. Turns out the Hammer Fighters League, that's not the fighting. That is playing hammerball. That's playing Hammer Fight Soccer.
Yes. Also, what I did because it made more sense, and one of them was called the Lesser League. Would have been this is one of those things where my character probably knew what the Hammer Fighters League was, but I didn't. But yeah, we started playing soccer.
Yeah.
During this.
This is something where I like the stacked odds really do stand against you because your fight, like it's it's 1 versus 2. And if this swings against you, it swings against you hard.
2v1 soccer is not very balanced.
Yeah.
As a thing. But again, using these physics to do soccer.
Yeah.
After this, you do the White Hall. This is a trial to prove yourself against a beast that has killed all of its challengers. This is a legendary beast, which is a mechanical flying crab with a gun, which I like. That does sound like a legend.
It does. But like every part of it is something that can hurt you.
Is weapon.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful. Difficult for me as I'm closer combat with this as a hammer boy.
Yeah. And I'm whipping my flail around. I'm getting so much angular momentum, Gary.
Nice.
And now we have to fight nobles with elemental weapons, and winning gets Kaddish, the head of the second house, to offer us the title of Seneschal.
Yes.
Oh, I've got so many schemes.
Yeah.
Gonna get in that group chat. But you decline and you challenge him to a duel to the death.
He accepts, and his queen says that he should have executed you earlier, which would have made a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah.
Letting the plucky rebel rise through the ranks of the gladiator pits is never a good idea.
And it's classic blunder.
Classic Seneschal blunder. This introduces us to the mission Ave Kaddish, which is a fight. Yeah. Kaddish uses a short blade. He's not particularly difficult. I have armor at this point as well, so he's ineffective against me.
Yeah.
And he is a story character who will surrender.
Yes.
And take him down.
I spare him, but I'm still called a murderer and locked up.
Yeah. I don't know what that's about.
Don't know. And then we meet the Emperor. The Emperor Barat al-Maravi. He has us to his chambers to explain, yes, you have served my plan quite well. What? We've defeated Kaddish and helped him gather the last of the all-powerful singing stones. There are huge materia. He got the ones from the Gaiar. Now that Kaddish is dead, he has that one. And with his, he can finally do what he wants to.
Yep. We are a Gathering Stones quest.
Yes.
Which you do not know. So the plan is to attack the Gaiars and elevate us to a great warrior. That plan that we had was Kumid's idea.
Yes.
Because the Gaiars are the fiercest warriors, but none of us would serve willingly. Yes. So we had to be tricked into vengeance. There's only one guy who can flail around wildly in a ship and pull big levers so well that he could actually get all the giant materia, but we have to trick him into doing it.
It's in his blood.
Yeah. He's just really, really good at it.
Yeah. And he says, my true enemy, it's not you, but it's yet to be confronted. And, we're gonna let you, give you another chance here. You very foolishly, rejected a title, rejected a place in the administration. But I'm going to give you a chance, to become a seneschal or not. And this is one of the choices that matters.
Do you remember how much time we all wasted on seneschalornot.com? That website where they'd show you a picture of a girl and you had to decide if she was a seneschal.
It was always super easy because you just tell by the way they're dressed.
Yeah, it wasn't a difficult game, but it was just a really good time waster. It introduced me to a lot of seneschals, and a lot of seneschals ended up being in the old spank bank.
Yeah.
If you understand what I mean.
It's pretty
think
direct.
About the seneschals later and then spank my dick.
Yeah.
To tell climax to them.
Explain more.
Oh, and then some viziers as well. Well, there's a vizier, they would not be seneschal or not, but they could still make their way into the personal bank.
Okay.
Because I take all Viziers and Seneschals.
That's really
equally when it
open-minded
comes to
of you.
sex.
Congratulations.
I think it's because it kind of sounds like Christian Shawl. I think that's what's getting crossed in my brain.
Oh, wait, the horse?
Yeah, somebody who kind of has a mild celebrity crush on Christian Shawl.
Yeah.
I think that I think that's what's going on. Whereas Vizier doesn't sound like anything.
No.
Greg Kinnear. I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah. A Little Miss Sunshine was okay.
It's fine. If you watch it again, it'll cloy you.
Oh yeah, no, I know. There was a time and place for it, and it was precisely 2006.
Yeah, we were all insane at that point. So obviously you don't join the evil empire who killed your house.
Yeah.
So you get cast into the abyss here.
Yes.
Your last and best chance to be a seneschal.
He does dangle a very ornate blade called Discord, his family treasure. But that's not the weapon I fight with.
Yeah. And also like a named weapon feels pointless to me in this.
Yeah.
There is an element of this where, because it is all physics, there is a kind of a limited space to it, like physics plus elemental effects. Mm-hmm. But because the thing you're doing is swinging your mouse around to swing the weapon, there's not like a huge possibility space in your offensive verbs, right? Like there's not things like, what I wanted was something closer. It's weird how many Isaac comparisons are to this, but like something that would transform how I played.
Yeah.
Like something that homed or something that like magnetic. Mm-hmm. Things like that, like different properties it could have that could do things that were more, bigger possibility space, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
This brings us into the final chapter,
Yes.
Khalit.
Yeah, and we awaken on this heap of machinery in a red chamber. We are in whatever the abyss is, which is this kind of series of techno tunnels. Yeah. And there's a guy in a hanging cage who calls to us. This is Naveen, the chief of the Sayati clan, the clan we helped earlier at the fog. No, the worm farmers. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Worm folk. So he calls out to us. We had to fight out a bunch of armed drones. And with a match that starts as a half health, kind of the gimmick here. One of them drops the stone key, which we can use to open a portal that takes us to a tight tunnel with more drones to fight. Yeah. We're not proving ourselves, at least.
Yes, we're just surviving alongside Naveen as he kind of follows along here. To get into the kind of the heart of the abyss here, we need to get a space folding key, another portal key, from something called the Hamar's pendulum.
Yes. There. So this is, we go into the circular arena. There's a big flail swinging around the perimeter. So there's kind of a hazard here. Yeah. We defeat more drones. We have to stay out of the way of the flail. Obviously, the flail can hurt the drones as well.
Yes.
Which is good. We can, yeah.
Yeah. I do like the pattern here. It's like, oh, wait, Hamar's pendulum. I thought it would be bigger. And it's like, oh, don't worry, it is.
No, it is.
That thing that moves like a pendulum, that's not Hamar's pendulum.
No, that's a lesser pendulum. Yeah.
Yeah. So the drones run out, and we have to attack the gear that spins the flail. And this cuts it loose and opens up our portal. And then we get into what is the hammer, which is, it's kind of hard to explain, but we're in this chamber that has these like two crushing gears, and you have to like navigate between the teeth as they spin to get to like safe area before the next tooth comes.
Yep. And survive for a certain amount of time. So 2.5 minutes. That, I'm going to call it here, that's too long for a survival mission.
Yeah.
For this, with something with this level of lethality. Because dying 2 minutes in, it doesn't sound like a long time, but it is annoying to redo this.
At the level of intensity that it is. Yeah.
Yes. This was hard to me. Balancing, navigating this and fighting drones that pop out.
Yeah. I would just end up pinched. It pinched me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it. You know how Mario dies.
Yeah.
From walking around on gears, that kind of thing. This sucked. This was hard.
Yeah.
Eventually got through it though. Then we reach the central chamber, and Naveen says that this is all that links the abyss with the world under our world that is under the moon. Everything was locked away until Emperor Khalit opened it up to delve inside again.
Yes. Yeah.
So he unleashed the terrors.
He did. And that caused the encroachment of the fog wall, is what it is. So he kind of started this all. And we get to the glowing eye of the machine core at the center of this kind of Contra-esque tangle of pipes. and we meet the Seraph, which is a mainframe built by humanity's precursors here. We're in AI territory.
Yep. It's so far in the future, it's the past.
Yes.
Where were that? They were losing a war against this polymorphic race called the Family.
Hey.
And this, when you're there, your family. This is all, again, we're at the end of the game. We're introducing the polymorphic race that fought the precursors.
Yes.
Here. They had sank resources in developing something called the Hammer, which let them bend space to deploy sentient machines to fight for them against the Family.
And this created, it's discovered or opened up realms that they could get to for resources and to, as new fronts in the war. But this left them open to the Family, and we've been fighting them. That's their current form is the beasts.
Yes. So the worms. The precursors fought the worms. Seraph thought it accomplished its tasks 300 years ago by folding the abyss.
Yeah.
The many realms were an acceptable loss for the creators. It was this horrible tragedy to do this. However, the Emperor opened it up again.
Yes.
Mass Effect style shit, right? Like this is, the Emperor opened the abyss, pursuing science. He let the beast loose and spoke to Seraph about their threat. And this is when he learned about the singing stones being Seraph's control devices.
Yes.
So the gigantic materia is to control this ancient AI from the precursor races.
Yes. And Seraph made the Emperor promise, okay, bring me the singing stones, and that way we can actually launch a fight and finish off the Family. But the Emperor betrayed it and plans to use them to hop between worlds to take refuge. Just basically doing the same thing, opening places up for the Family to attack, and then just jumping someplace else.
Yeah. So gonna go shunt from dimension to dimension with worms chasing him.
Yes.
Yeah. Seraph says the Emperor sent you there to kill it. You can say you're there on your own. That makes me think that even if you had accepted,
you would still be down here. You would just be down here under different circumstances
with a different sword.
Yeah.
So you can say like, no, yes, the Emperor sent me, or no, I came on my own. But it turns out that Naveen was an agent who had made the way for you to reach Seraph anyway.
Yeah.
For this. So Naveen is kind of manipulating you. Naveen denies this. And we get our final choice of the game. Do we ally with the sentient machines and do a united front against the Family, or do we refuse? Do we side with the evil empire?
Right.
Or do we side with the precursor AI to fight the worms?
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to overstate how little I care about that choice at the end of this.
And also how out of nowhere it comes.
This game, we're getting into wrap-up thoughts because, again, short episode, short game. This had a powerfully distancing effect on me in terms of me caring a whit about anything that happens in this game. Like, I had a degree of fun with this. The way this story is told and the way that it traffics in cliche. Like, I could not get invested in this. There's so much detail here, but I had no grounding. Like it felt like there were no stories about people in this whole thing. There's vanishingly little text in general, or dialogue. Like being faced with this felt very ending Tron 2000.
Yeah.
Very derogatory to me.
And also like either way, it feels like it is setting up for a sequel. So it kind of makes everything that we went through almost feel like a prologue. Right?
Yeah. It's probably to Hammerfight 2, that tactics game.
But that is supposed to take place before this, I think.
Oh, that's before this? I thought it was way after.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So I accept as well.
Yes.
We made all the same choices in this, but it's just the ones that made sense.
Hey, buddy.
And there's only 3, right? So we do this, we form, we return, we take over the Empire, we form a new kingdom. As sentient machines fly in. So maybe we've opened the door to a worse threat than the Family if the sentient machines for the precursors are bad.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But it's impossible to tell.
It's impossible to tell. And that's Hammerfight, a game that I think doesn't, for me, the way that we played it and the way it presents itself as a single player campaign, I have no feelings about.
Yeah.
Like I'm eager to forget. The story bounced off me. The control scheme was novel. There are things to admire about it. What I want for this is this to be an arcade cabinet or a couch co-op minigame and not even though the story stuff is kind of admirable in how detailed it is, and like there's little bits of dialogue that are kind of fun from time to time.
Yeah.
But it feels like a huge mismatch. Like it's like I was going to say a cheeseburger inside a donut bun, but people sell those.
Yeah.
Like it's not in the right package. It's like the cheeseburger and cheese, but it's inside a bubble envelope. It's not good food.
Yeah.
Like
it's I don't think that this was served by trying to match an expectation that doesn't match what the competency of this is. It feels like,
and not trying to beat up on it because it's one guy.
Yeah, it's one
obviously
guy.
a passion project, and it is impressive. Like,
yeah,
and there is something. I understand why this game has its fans. Like, this game was apparently. I thought this was pretty obscure. I didn't listen to Idle Thumbs. Apparently, during that period, this was a big Idle Thumbs darling. Video game podcasts at the time enjoyed this. Sean Elliott didn't talk about it, so I didn't hear about it. And I get that because there is something to this that is like, oh, this is a new control method. And I do feel embodied in a way that is different than how I usually feel embodied in games. That has some value. And they stretch it to do different variations on different matches and stuff quite a bit. But there's so much of this that's just hammer fight in your hammer fight.
Yeah.
And I got fatigued by it. And it's really short. Like to get kind of a little sick of this was difficult because there's not very much time invested in it. There's just a lot of swinging your mouse in circles.
Yeah. I just like playing this and then talking about it. I really just want this to be like an Olympics game. I want it to be like the Hammerfight decathlon.
Yeah. A series of mini games with this control scheme, or a series of competitive games. We didn't really talk about this, but I think it's worth noting. Ergonomically, I also found this a little bit rough. I don't know if that's because of how my desk is set up or what, but I'm not used to having my hand on my mouse and using it that long. It's like, and that's always the thing you run into. This came up with Mario Galaxy when you're doing the waggle constantly. And I just feel like I'm not using these muscles when I play a video game usually. Yeah. I'm getting tired. Part of the reason why I play this in short bursts is because I get like a little, like my arm would get sore. And I was like, what is happening? It feels very un-video game-like to me.
Yeah. It's also it required more desk space.
Yes.
It made me very happy I have one of those huge gamer mouse pads.
Yeah. We both have the Elden Ring one, right?
No, that's on my my work computer.
Gotcha.
The other one that is in the same room, that's like a Logitech, like super slick kind of thing. But yeah, like, when you're mousing, like you're moving around at the wrist and you're kind of controlling it with your fingers, you kind of can't do that. This is a game that you have to like swivel at your shoulder and elbow to play.
Yeah. You have to make bigger adjustments in the mouse than you ordinarily would for this. Like a mouse is very precise, but you actually have to try to get momentum in this.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's no part of this that isn't kind of neat, but I didn't have that much fun with it. And it didn't make me feel like I'm kind of interested in that tactics. Adding a strategy layer to this would do a lot for the pacing.
Yes,
do tons for the pacing. Adding like a strategy management layer.
Yeah.
So I am curious about the sequel. This is something I probably don't need to play again. I'm happy to have put it behind me.
I probably got another round of Hammerball in me because like you do get like new game modes that unlock as you finish. Yeah,
I can see trying it multiplayer.
Yeah,
Ivan, we appreciate you.
We do. Thank you.
Thank you. If you're listening to this and you are any kind of oppressed person, so you're not straight, not male, not cis, any of those things, not white, you can send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv. I'd be happy to shout out your project. This episode, I want to talk about Laura Catherine, who is a non-binary author who just put out a book called, let me see here, Enemies to Booksellers. You can find that by Googling it. They also have a link tree here. So, it's Linktree and then the name Laura Catherine, which is spelled like it sounds.
Okay.
You can see all of their other stories that they have as well there. And you can get links to where you can find this book. It is it looks like this is a cozy kind of mystery kind of thing here.
Cozy, kind of like a fantasy lesbian romance kind of thing. Yeah.
So if you're looking for cozy lesbian romance, this is your book. Check it out.
Support independent authors.
Yeah. And if you have anything you'd like us to shout out, or promote, please send me an email. Include all the information. So pronunciation, pronouns, all that stuff. Anything I might want, it's better to include it than not.
Yes. If you have thoughts about this month's games, Hammerfight, Indica, or Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven, the deadline is March the 15th. Go to Duckfeed.tv/contact, use the WAF button, and write in multiple responses if you want to talk about multiple games, and keep it specific and concise.
Yeah. If you have things to say about next month's games, which are Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, Rygar for the NES, or The Suffering, please write in by March 15th. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance is our first rerun we're running. We talked about this during the State of the Union. Every once in a while, if we're going to be traveling,
yes,
we're going to do this. So this is the reason why we're running that is because we are going to be at Midwest Gaming Classic this year.
We are.
That's the first weekend in April. A little different than last year. This year, we are not tabling. We just have a panel. So we're going to do a meetup and everything, and we're going to be there. So if you want to talk to us, you know, but we're just not going to post up.
Yes.
This time. Our panel is on Saturday night. There at 7 on the bonus stage, so in the main hall. We'll be doing the meetup after that. And we'd love to see you.
We would. It's always a good time.
We are talking about retro gaming for the Dark Souls enthusiast.
Yes.
So looking at ways that retro game DNA, which retro games have the foreshadow of Dark Souls within them.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Something that we talked about a lot on our various shows. But we're going to put together a little presentation for that.
We are. So come, hang out.
Yeah. We'll have details about the meetup on social media and stuff. And when we're there, if you want to get like some FaceTime or anything, we're going to be walking around, and we'll also have, if you want buttons and stickers and stuff, we'll have that stuff with us.
Yeah.
What else?
We can only do that because of your support on Patreon. You want to support us, go to patreon.com/duckfeed.tv and kick us a few bucks a month. Get a whole bunch of bonus content. Both Might and Magic 6 and The Suffering are premium episodes. You get access to those, plus like 90 full bonus episodes of just this show.
More every month. Yeah. If you can't do that, you can. We would appreciate it if you'd rate and review the podcast or subscribe on your podcast directory of choice. Tell your friends, write about us on internet. Nobody responded to it, but somebody in the Scald Reddit, plugged the episode. That's good.
Thank you.
People are hungry for Scald content because that game is criminally undercovered.
They added mod support, Gary.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Do that. Tell people. We appreciate that. That helps us.
No.
And also helps us is thanking our producer, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah. What should they watch out for until next time?
Watch out for me, because I'm a seneschal now.
Watch out for seneschals.
Gary, I've been a seneschal the whole time.
No. Well, I've been a vizier the whole time.
Oh.
It's an advise off, is it?